Welcome, movie fans. Thanks for joining us for episode 83 of Reading Between the Reels, your premier podcast for discussion on unnecessary CGI sunsets. If you're a new listener, we're glad you found us, and if you've been enjoying the show, please tell someone about us. Post on X, formerly known as Twitter, or Facebook, write a review on your favorite podcast catcher, or just recommend the show to a friend. I'm Justin Eldon, and I'd like to introduce my man, Craig Dickinson.
What's up, Justin? That was fantastic.
Thank you. I was really excited for that CGI sunset joke. I was just...
It was worth the wait.
Yeah. This week we are, like I said, doing Aquaman, which is just going to be great because it's such a good movie.
It is a good movie.
Someone thinks that somewhere. And we're going to dive in and try and find a deeper meaning, if there is any at all. If you can tell, I'm not super stoked about this movie, but here we are. Craig, let's start with some positive thoughts, overall thoughts in the movie.
Okay, I'm going to get to that in just a second. I do want to address a couple of elephants that may or may not be in the room. One is we're down a Corey tonight, and he should be back next time. Yeah, it's just going to be Justin and I flying tonight. And also, I also wanted to address that quickly that we had originally planned to release a Mission Impossible episode with David Jesse last week, but we're going to go ahead and bump that into the spring. So if you were waiting for that episode, sorry, you're going to have to wait a little bit longer. It will be worth it, I promise.
I feel like we're doing this a disservice because part of my beef with this movie is the fake gingers that appear throughout. And without Corey here to defend his hair color, like what is there to be done? Anyway.
Yes, he's with us in spirit, of course. Okay, Aquaman. I love this movie. It is a great popcorn movie. It is absolutely fun. It knows what it is. I think that it is a beautiful movie, even if it is mostly CGI. It's underwater. There's gorgeous underwater vistas. The architecture is fantastic. And really, not really even complaint, but my only thing to comment on is that there are not one, not two, not three, but 4 different explosions that break into dialogue scenes. And that's maybe a little bit of a flaw in the storytelling. When conversations linger a little bit too long, you bring in the action scenes. But other than that, Justin, I thoroughly enjoyed watching it this time. And I'm also excited when I see movies that are in a larger structure like the DCEU or the MCU that basically can stand on their own and don't feel like they always have to build up the next film or depends heavily on the previous film. This one pretty much stands on its own. And I'm legitimately excited for the second movie, which is due this week. And I know it's the end of the DCEU, but I don't think that's going to affect my enjoyment of that film because it kind of just exists in its own universe anyway.
Okay. I disagree with almost all of that.
Excellent.
There were definitely parts of this movie. Okay, so I've seen this movie 3 times now. Once when it originally came out, and I hated it with all my soul. The second time was in preparation for this podcast, and I hated it again. And Craig and I, through our various conversations while preparing for this podcast, he was still so insistent that it is a good movie, and I tend to trust Craig's opinion on most things. So I watched it a third time, and I hated it slightly less. But boy, do I have issues.
It's a ringing endorsement. Yeah.
I took more notes on this movie than I have any movie that we have ever done on this podcast so far. And it's, I think my biggest beef with it, and you're probably going to hear me harp a lot on the excessive and unnecessary use of CGI, and just bad CGI, bad, unnecessary, excessive. I'm going to talk about that a lot. But I think overall it is just a general inconsistency of this movie. Like, it doesn't know what it wants to be. cinematically, thematically, character, like dialogue, the writing, the score, which I overall really enjoyed, but it was kind of all over the place. Tonally, like every movie word you can think of, I just like, I don't know. And I don't know if that is from the editing, from the writing. There was just so much like, what are we doing here, guys? What is our goal? What's going on? But yeah, it has its good parts. Jason Momoa, I really think, does the absolute best he can with what is given to him. I mean, just Aquaman in general. Like, how do you make Aquaman cool? Well, you put Jason Momoa in there first off, but then it's a tough hill to climb. Oh, I bought the movie to watch for this podcast, and I'm mad. I'm mad I spent that money. Mad.
Oh, Justin. Yeah. We're gonna agree to disagree a lot on this episode, which is fine. Because we talked off mic too about how I said this is basically like the Thor Ragnarok of the DCU, and you're like, yeah, I get that, but I don't like that either. Or I'm misquoting you.
No, that's basically what it is, and maybe that's where I'm coming from. Is I like my comic book movies to be more on the side of the Christopher Nolan Batmans, like more grounded in reality. And the more it strays from reality, the more I have issue with it. Not always. Like, I do like a little bit of straying, because I think that's where the fun part is, like add in some superhumans or mutants or whatever it may be. But for the most part, I like it to be fairly grounded, because that's a world where, like, my brain understands, and you don't have to explain little bits of it. For example, this mostly takes place underwater, in a civilization that we are not privy to, and politics we are not privy to. And they just don't have enough time to explain the mechanics of all that in a satisfying way. So I was left feeling hollow and empty inside. Like, explain to me more the politics of these 7 kingdoms in the Atlantic. I want to know more about that. I don't know. It's just like it had so much world to build, and it didn't want to. If that makes sense.
I'm so sorry, Justin.
It's okay. It's okay, Craig. I still appreciate your opinion, just less so.
I like different types of movies. This just happened to be one that just struck me as just being fun and goofy. And I think it does know what it is. I guess I get what you're saying, that there are moments of hyper realism, and then there's moments of straight up comedy, and that can be a bit jarring if that's not what you're in the mood for, or if you just, if it just doesn't strike you as fitting together. I get where you're coming from. I can think of certain scenes that might feel like it's in a slightly different movie.
Yeah, and I guess we can get into like the cinematography, because that's kind of where like this conversation is leading. In watching it this time around, and like kind of like an eye looking out for the things we wanted to discuss in this podcast, a lot of it, like the color in particular, like very bright, very vibrant colors. Actually, when they're in, I don't remember the Italian city that they're in, but that coastal Italian city.
Yeah.
Especially when they're in there, it is like very bright and just very like colors pop. But almost to the point where it's like distracting from the narrative. It's almost like the narrative wasn't there enough, so they're like, you know what? Let's turn that saturation up to 11. Maybe we can get people to like it based solely on the saturation. And it's almost like once I noticed that, I couldn't notice anything else, and everything else was just like fell short, because I felt like they were just trying to pump it up through the color and like the general composition. And while a lot of it was really cool, especially like in Atlantis itself, you got to see like, the city and all the colors and like the jellyfish that like had like the bioluminescent lights reflecting all throughout the city. It just was not. It was like visually appealing in a lot of ways, but it almost showed me how little substance was actually there, if that makes sense.
Well, I like the cinematography, Justin. I know. I had some things that I pulled out that I want to bring attention to, and I've always liked the shot of Arthur and Mira diving down to escape the swirling masses of the trench when they go to that super wide shot when he's got the red flare.
Yeah.
I think that's just a great shot. I just love shots where they just show you this sense of scale, where you get to see just how many of them there are. I just thought that was just kind of a cool looking shot.
That was really cool.
I like the that final battle. I know that people freak out. Either they love it or hate the final battle where the Karathan shows up and it's just friggin' huge. But I'm like, it's the Lord of the Rings underwater. That's great. They're just like literally everything is in that scene. I think it's fantastic. But
yeah, everything which I would categorize as visual clutter. That's what that felt like.
No, it's amazing. It's so good.
No,
it's so
entertaining.
Just
no. Okay.
Okay. Well, the fight scenes. What about the fight scenes? You gotta like the fight scenes, right? The swirling around camera that starts with Atlanta just trashing Arthur or Thomas Curry's house at the beginning, and the camera pans over the top and then swings around. You don't like that?
So I thought it was shot well, and maybe I'm focusing on the wrong elements for this podcast, but okay, so the fight scene, the Ring of Fire fight scene, right? Is that what that was called?
Oh, that's a later one. That's when he's fighting.
That is a later one. Yeah, you're talking about the one in the house.
Yeah, there's several of them that are shot in a similar way, where and this is what I mainly had for, that the underwater scenes are on multiple axes. Like there is no where the camera's not going to go. It's over the top, it's around, it's diagonal. You're going to get every angle that possibly new angles you haven't seen in particular fights until John Wick comes along.
Mm-hmm. I thought that was great. The action scenes were intense without doing too much of the old shaky cam, so you could still kind of tell what was going on, but it kept it visually appealing. Yes.
Yeah.
I'd agree
with
that. Like that.
The opening, I think everybody enjoys the opening scene with Arthur going through the sub. I mean, seems to be a big crowd pleaser.
That was the highlight of the film. It's only downhill after that.
Oh my gosh, it's only uphill from there for me. I just love that so much.
Give me more of that. That's like that's like grounded. I like that.
Punches that guy, and then the camera rotates 90 degrees to follow him to the ground. I just thought that was fantastic.
It was reminiscent for me of the Corey needs to be here, of the Batman warehouse scene when Batman chucks that guy's face into the ground and you just see it like splinter into the wood.
Yes.
Listeners, this is the point where Corey would mention that warehouse scene is the best Batman fight scene ever.
You thought I was kidding when I said he was here in spirit. No, he's absolutely here.
Yeah, I'm surprised that actually didn't summon Corey. That usually pops up when you say that.
Dude, what about the wide shot of Mira running across the top of the Sicilian rooftops, and the camera's swinging around over that, and it goes from her scene with the soldiers to you've got the pulls back, and then you got Arthur and the Black Manta fighting together. Like it's not edited. It's one continuous shot, and I love that stuff.
Yeah, it was cool looking, but it was a completely unnecessary chase scene. What? It was cool for the sake of cool. It didn't even make sense.
That's what this movie is, dude.
I can totally beat all these guys up without too much issue, but you know what? I'm just going to run away for whatever reason.
She has to have water available to do it. Did you not understand
There's no pipes or water in this city. They established that there's water in the toilets.
We don't want to see toilet water floating and killing guys, dude. We don't want to see that.
That would have been hilarious. The guy later sticks his face in a toilet. That's great.
Yes, that is pretty great. Okay. All right. Anything else that you like? Anything you liked at all in the cinematography, Justin? You mentioned a few things, but
no,
he's just struggling.
I didn't.
I just like how dynamic it is. Like it's always moving, and that kept me interested. I thought that was great, and I thought the bright and vibrant colors of Atlantis were beautiful, and it's not. For people that don't like the desaturated look of the earlier Snyder films, it's not that. It's quite opposite that. It's got a totally different color palette, but still fits enough for me.
It is,
in that
like I said, just like visually cluttered.
Oh.
I couldn't help but draw like visual parallels, though, obviously, because they're both underwater civilizations, between this and Black Panther 2. The underwater civilization from that film. And I would say that one almost took the opposite approach, where that one was way too dark.
Absolutely.
And like just drab and boring. I would, if given the option, take the Aquaman approach. But still, it was just like, it's hard to like give a sense of world building through the colors and the set pieces, or the CGI set pieces. Are those still considered set pieces? I don't know.
Absolutely, sure.
It's hard to do that if it's just so distracting constantly. Like you don't know where to draw your eye, if that makes sense.
Mm. See, that warrants a second viewing, second, a third, and a fourth, and a seventh viewing.
I don't want to have to watch a movie 7 times in order to like it. I want to like it the first viewing and then watch it 7 times. I'll definitely do that. But
I liked it a couple times.
I do agree. I think that shot where they were going down into the trench, with all of the creatures like swirling around while he has the flare, was really, really cool looking.
Looks like a painting.
Yeah, and it really stood out. It was quite the anomaly, which is why I noticed it, because I think the rest was so bad. It had no consistency. It was just all over the place, color wise and cinematically. I just don't feel like I could figure it out.
Oh man, so. This is Don Burgess is the cinematographer. Since you trashed him, I'm going to pull him out and pull out his. This is what he's done. Okay, he did the original Spider-Man. You can kind of see that. Okay. And he did several movies for Robert Zemeckis, including Forrest Gump, Contact, What Lies Beneath, Castaway. He also did Terminator 3. And since you liked him so much for this one, he's back for the second one. So if you liked Aquaman 1 and the way it looked, you're in good shape. If you did not, then I guess, like Justin, you're probably dreading.
So is what I'm hearing is that he did a great job on movies before CGI was a big thing. That's what I heard.
Well, I mean, we're talking more lighting and setting up shots than the actual CGI stuff, probably.
I mean, how much though? Like, how much? Say you would know more about this background. Maybe you can explain this to our listeners. How much setting up of a shot and lighting goes into a CGI shot? How much control would he have over that?
See, that's a good question. I mean, there's clearly a lot of setup that goes into that. How directly involved the main director of photography would be in those?
Yeah, I always wonder how much are these
delegated.
Guys? Yeah, how much crossover and communication do these guys have one with another?
I'm thinking he's doing more of the live action, like what the actors look like.
Oh,
that type of stuff.
See, and there were a lot of scenes so I went into this movie with the mindset, and I know I mentioned this at the start, but the mindset of Craig likes this movie. I'm going to give it another shot. And like I said, that sub scene at the beginning was so great. There was so little, if any, I'm sure there was some CGI in that opening scene where he boards the sub. I thought the lighting was good. The camera angles were good. It was fantastic. And then you get the CGI in there that... Now, I think I said the Flash looked like it was PlayStation 2 cutscene graphics. This was like a PlayStation 3 cutscene graphics, so it was better than, say, the Flash. But I will agree it was better than
the Flash. But I don't have any issues with it. Okay, let's talk about the sound, because it's not cinematography, and mainly, and you didn't like the score, which I loved the score. I thought it was fantastic.
I loved the score. I thought the score was great.
Oh, I thought you said you didn't like it. You thought it was inconsistent.
I do think it's inconsistent, but I enjoyed every part of the inconsistent score. I just wish they would have stuck with one of them.
Okay. Yeah. So Rupert Gregson Williams, who also did the Wonder Woman music, the original one. Hans Zimmer did 84. There's a couple of different styles, I think. Maybe this is what you're looking like that I noticed. I mean, you've got kind of the traditional symphonic score. It's kind of epic and majestic, especially the main Aquaman theme, which we hear repeated. And then he also has kind of goes into like electronica a little bit when like they go into Atlantis.
Yep.
Which I took it's kind of otherworldly and also kind of fits the neon, almost like a rave type of theme. That's kind of what I was pulling from that.
I liked that a lot because I don't know where that trend started, or I guess I don't know where that trend reemerged because like Stranger Things, like the intro of Stranger Things is pretty famous for like the synth and like that 80s sound. Mm-hmm. And I this is doing that, and I like that. I thought that was awesome. I would have loved more of that.
Yeah.
But alas.
Yeah. And also I was going to mention that there's actually some rock guitar in there too a couple of times because like in that sub scene. There's a couple of riffs and like because Momoa's a rock star, man. It's like that's the vibe he's definitely putting off. And I also noticed there's also something called King Orm's theme, which has a heavy synth bass to it and drums. And it's very ominous and powerful every time you see Orm comes on screen. So that's cool. That anytime I see leitmotif used, I'm always very excited about that.
Black Manta too, I thought had I don't remember what it even sounds like right now, but it almost reminded me a little bit of Superman's like 2-note bass sounding theme, which again is I can't recall it. I can't do that with music, but I thought Black Manta's theme was awesome as well.
Yeah, agreed. One thing I will say, as a kid that grew up in the 80s and grew up with Super Friends, hearing the like oscillating talk to fish sound, even started in the beginning when little Aquaman's talking to like the sharks and stuff in the aquarium was like
Aqua Boy.
This is so cool that they're doing that sound. They leaned into it because you didn't get that in Justice League in his earlier. I mean, there was really not an opportunity for him to do that, I suppose.
So I guess I just assumed that was like a sonar sound, but that's a callback to the Super Friends.
Oh yeah, very much. And there would be like you could see like concentric rings coming out of his head or whatever. And
today I learned. Okay.
Yes, it was or out of his hands or whatnot. It was so to get to see that on screen. The marine telepathy thing was pretty great, I thought. And then that's also kind of there's a similar sound. But the Atlantean tech has kind of an oscillating sound too. So I thought that was kind of hey, this is underwater technology ish thing happening. Lots of pop music in this movie as well. How did you feel about the pop music in this movie? Did that take you out? I mean, there's a thing that kind of like came to the forefront with like Guardians of the Galaxy, like Needle Drops was kind of like the resurgence of that. And then
I don't think it really took me out of anything, and I think it definitely helped like create tone quite a bit, like almost express what the actors weren't expressing through words or their acting. Especially in, I forget the name of the song, Craig, help me out, but as they're entering that Italian coastal city, what song was that?
Would you know when they're like walking around or when they're coming out of the beach? Oh, yeah. So it's Roy Orbison's She's a Mystery to Me, that one?
Yep. That one in particular, I'm like, okay, yeah, this is the first time I don't hate Mara. And I think it was the song. Well done, manipulation of emotion.
Exactly. And yes, I mean, they're talking about elephants in the room. Like, yes, Amber Heard is in this movie. And I think she's charming in this movie. I mean, and again, going back to the, emotional manipulation with the music, like, I think you get to see her kind of babe in the woods, fish out of water, literally. But her just kind of being disarmed in that way, I think was a smart move because she comes across as kind of abrasive when she's first introduced. And there you get to see her kind of just goofy a little bit, but then she's also kind and generous too. So I think that song is definitely standing in for, hey, Arthur's looking at her in a different way.
I think Amber Heard in this was one of my biggest issues, not for who she is as a person, regardless of what side you're on with the Johnny Depp Amber Heard stuff. You're probably on Johnny Depp's side. I think like 90% of the people are. But,
I'm on the side of the truth, Justin.
Okay, yeah, all right. So I'm going to separate the artist from the art, but
as we often have to do. Yeah,
I did not like her in this. I felt like when we talk about inconsistencies, her character was the most inconsistent. Like, she was sharp and strong, but she was also like naive and silly, but also witty, but also boss lady. Like, oh my goodness, pick a lane, Mara.
She's got layers, man.
Yeah, it's not layers. It's just bad writing.
Oh, I thought that was going to be a Deadpool reference there, but
sorry.
So speaking of Mira, and diegetic music, which is always a fun thing to pull out. One thing I noticed this time is that I need to stop saying there is an original song at the end of the film by Skylar Grey. It's called "Everything I Need," which I think is a beautiful song, and I love the way it's sung. And like this, usually when I get to the end of the film, I'm like, I'll fast forward, see if there's post credits. I don't fast forward that song. I really like that song, but it's also used non-diegetically. You hear that during that big giant battle at the end that Justin doesn't like, where they kind of cheesily pause and then, like, I guess in the middle of the battle, which isn't very realistic, but whatever. And then I
have that called out in my notes. That kiss too. I really hope we get there.
Also,
okay, sorry, keep going.
When she steals the boat, and she's sitting at the front of the boat and the bow, if you will, and playing a flute, nautical terms, playing a flute. She's playing that song, and I caught that this time. It's like that's kind of cool. I like to see when they interplay those two things. But obviously, the greatest example of diegetic music in this is when Topo the octopus is playing drums before the battle, the Ring of Fire. That's freaking fantastic.
Oh my word! Okay, if I had a nickel for every time that Craig mentioned this octopus playing the drums, I would have 3 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's not a lot of nickels, but it's a lot of times he mentions this octopus playing drums.
I mean, that's the movie in a nutshell. You got an octopus playing drums. We're just leaning into the silly.
Every time I'm like, oh, I hate that movie. He's like, there's an octopus playing drums. I'm like, but okay,
great.
Cool. I don't have issue with that. I just don't care. Like, Little Mermaid did it first, I suppose.
Well, this is comic book thing, so this happened probably earlier than the Disney movie, but whatever. I like, and I know some people don't like hearing Pitbull's "Ocean to Ocean," which borrows heavily from Toto's "Africa." I thought that was great. It just cracked me up that we get to hear that because they went to Africa and then they're playing that song.
Someone in a boardroom was like, "Guys, they're in Africa.
Little on the nose.
Know what song we can do?"
There you go.
Yeah.
But dude, what's cooler than Black Manta? His armor making montage with Depeche Mode playing. It's no good. That's just it's a great song, and it's just
it's just that all the cool parts of this movie are ruined for me by the stupid things. Like Black Manta, I couldn't get over the feeling that I was watching like the 90s Power Rangers. And like those, how at the end of every Power Ranger episode, there was always the scene where like the giant monster attacks the city and they have a giant battle over the city. That was Black Manta to me. He just seemed like the giant monster at the end. The way his suit looked, the way he like stomped around and his cheesy little voice, and his stupid little one-liners.
Great. It was so good. He's comic accurate. He's going to be the big bad in the next movie. They set him up perfectly. Let's do it.
That's not a perfect setup. That's a terrible setup.
Oh, it's so good.
It's so bad.
Well, we'll get to characters soon.
Okay, I'm jumping ahead here in my rage.
Let's see. For vocal sounds, I had that there's opening and closing narration, which I thought was kind of a cool way to do it rather than just a crawl, having him kind of very, very poetically talk about things.
Except for really nowhere else does he narrate any part of it. So
just the beginning and the end.
Why?
I don't know.
Is he telling this story to someone?
He might be.
They just don't ever build on that anywhere else.
That's kind of how that works sometimes. And then I actually really like I think it's a pretty subtle effect. The processed voices underwater while they're talking. I thought that was just kind of a cool.
I did like subtle. That was pretty neat.
So
you kind of mentioned this earlier too, but in terms of sounds, just generally the Atlantean tech I thought was really neat sounding. I'd like to know how they made a lot of those sounds.
Yeah.
I'm trying to be positive here.
I hear you.
I'm doing my best.
So we're going to go ahead and slide down to performance. I think it fits, Justin. I think they're all a little silly, but I think it fits with what it's doing.
It just
thoughts
goes back and forth so quickly. It's like I just feel like I get emotional whiplash from how quickly they change the tone through their performance. Like, I know in the Sahara scene, they're trying to do like a quippy, witty, like I hate you but I love you dialogue between Mera and Aquaman. But it's too much. It's too quick, and they both just seem like they're reading off script. The chemistry that they produce through their dialogue is so bad. It like hurts me to watch. Like, I've seen middle schoolers flirt better than those two. It just hurt. And for two very attractive people, they should really just be better at that. Wasted talent. Wasted.
Okay. All right. Well, that's certainly an opinion. It's fun.
We need Corey here to break these tiebreakers.
Balance it up. Well, we did Blade Runner, and you weren't here, which I'm still sad too. And we may just have to just redo that movie again, just so you can just talk for an hour about how great that movie is. And that's kind of just how this went. I was trying to defend the people that didn't like it, but it's okay. Dialogue. Justin, do you have any dialogue that you liked from this film?
There were a couple of lines. I feel like Corey's always... Man, I miss Corey. I think I'm saying this too much.
I know. We'll be back next time.
There were a couple lines from Arthur himself that I thought were really cool. One in particular was when he is leaving Black Manta's father to die in the sun.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, oh, you can't just leave him here. And Arthur says, you killed innocent people. You can ask the sea for mercy. Which I would like to see that concept explored more. I was excited to maybe see that more, where like the sea is like this force of nature / God to these people that possibly has some sort of decision-making ability. I thought that was neat. I thought that was kind of a cool line. If I was Aquaman, I'd come up with all sorts of quippy remarks like that right before I killed people. This is kind of mixed dialogue with the soundtrack, but I feel like there were times where the soundtrack overwhelmed the dialogue. Maybe it was the sound on my TV. No, because I watched it on 2 separate TVs. But there were times where I couldn't super hear what they were saying because the music was overwhelming, which was a little disappointing. I had to go back a couple times and re-listen or watch with subtitles. And then you mentioned earlier, did you say there were 4?
4 different times.
4 different times? I also counted 4.
You want me to run them off?
Why write
the
end of a conversation when you can just explode one?
Yeah, exactly.
So the first one...
It's the J.J. Abrams school of filmmaking.
Yeah, so the first one was in the house at the beginning.
Yep, Tom Curry's house, yep.
I know there was another one when they were in the Italian city, when they were looking through the glass bottle.
Yep, the second one is
another one in Atlantis.
Yep, the second one is the Orm Nereus conversation, where they're looking at the statues of the old kings and whatnot, and then
where the sub attack.
The Mantis sub Council of Kings, where they blow it up. The third one is where Volko is explaining the history of Atlan's Trident in that underwater sunken ship, giving us exposition on that, and then of course Manta interrupts they're about to kiss after they figure out where they're going, that they look through the bottle.
Yep,
so 4 times.
4 times.
Yeah, it's a little extreme.
A little much. I'll take 1. Maybe 2. Maybe we could have gone with 2.
At least we didn't have 4 fake deaths. But yeah. All right, I'm gonna throw out this. I really liked, again, that whole sub sequence is just amazing at the beginning. Mm-hmm. When he breaks down the door and says, hurry up, I'm missing happy hour for this. It's just, what a great character beat. Like, that's who this dude is. Like, he's doing it because he can, but not necessarily because he wants to.
Okay.
Yeah. It's fine.
I think he's got like a really strong starting character of just kind of like, yeah, because he can. but I don't feel like they take him anywhere with any of his dialogue. He doesn't present enough motivation. I don't believe that he wants to be king. I don't believe he has a reason to be king.
He doesn't want to be king. That's the whole thing. He's forced into it.
Why? I don't even think he has enough of like a force driving him. He doesn't seem to care about like Atlanteans or humans. Like what is he doing?
Justin.
Craig.
Well, he clearly cares about his dad at least. So he's got to stop, he's got to stop the surface world from being destroyed. The only way he can do that is to get the trident. Something trident.
Jango Fett can take care of himself. He's fine.
He's an old man in this one. So, yeah, see, this is one of the lines I pulled out where he sees it. He's reunited with his mom, and she says to him, "You're afraid." And he says, "Yes." And she says, "Good, you're ready." And then he goes into that cave, and it's very much and we'll get to mention a sneak preview of our hero's journey thing. It's the apotheosis. He goes in and the death and rebirth thing where he basically has to face the fact that he is, kind of worthless in his own eyes. He's this half-breed and whatnot. And basically, yes, this is who I am. I will own who I am. And at that point, he's ready. And that's when he comes out with the suit and great reveal. Music swells. You probably didn't like that part at all.
Let's see. When are we talking about the suit? I need to talk about the suit.
Well, we can talk about it now.
All right. So, the suit.
Yeah.
The very first time we saw Aquaman, I believe it was in a post-credit. No, was it in a post-credit scene, or was it when Bruce Wayne is looking through the files and sees the little video clip of Aquaman?
So it's the file that Bruce sent to Diana on. So she's checking her email. Yeah. I know.
That was
should have been a post-credit. Should have been a post-credit scene, but yes.
Aquaman has a really stupid uniform, or really stupid suit. Like, I mean, the comic Aquaman. What are you going to do with that? What are you going to do with that on screen? It's going to look dumb. So when I saw Aquaman all tatted up in like a Islander style tattoo, but almost in the style of his suit, I'm like, what a wonderful interpretation. This is awesome. You can make this guy look super cool and still be somewhat true to the comics. And I was happy with that. That was cool. But then they give him his suit. And it looks so stupid.
No!
It's so bad. They're
like,
hey, let's make some shiny CGI fish scales.
Why does it have to be CGI? How do you know they don't actually make that?
It's because he's got like his head is real, and then it's like bobbles around on his suit. It doesn't match up in some scenes. It's like the Photoshop that I do in like 20 minutes. That's what it looked like. Oh, it's so bad. Even that whole end battle between him and Orm, when they're both just CGI bobbleheads on the CGI suits, like spinning tridents at each other. Oh, it's bad. It's so bad.
Justin, you gotta relax, bud. It's a fun movie. Again, you didn't like Ragnarok, though, so I'm just gonna bring that into this.
I need to be nicer. Also, why do we keep calling it a trident? It has five pointy pieces.
It's a quindent.
It's a quindent.
Yeah.
Stop calling it a trident.
But yeah, that's the thing. So body language, facial expressions. Look at that awkward segue. Back to the opening thing. In the sub, that one dude punches him, and he just tilts his head, smile, and the guitar comes in. So cool. But he also plays like the imbecile. I love that when Mira calls him an imbecile, and he has that look of like, huh? See, he's well-rounded. I love this movie, Justin. I'm sorry you don't enjoy it, but
I'm sorry too. I'm sorry I wasted my time.
And then Patrick Wilson as Orm, his face when his mom shows up at the end, and he's just like, I think that it speaks volumes in that moment where he's just regret and confusion all at the same time. You can see that he's like, I was just trying to do the right thing, but man, I was wrong.
I do think he did a good job as Orm.
Yeah.
He's been in a couple other films, Phantom of the Opera and Watchmen, and I didn't feel like he was all right in those films. I think this was probably his standout role from what I know of him.
Oh yeah, he's great in Watchmen. We absolutely have to do Watchmen on the show because it's so many good things to talk about.
Do love Watchmen.
So you didn't like Aquaman's suit. You didn't like Manta's comic accurate suit.
No.
Ocean Master Orm has also comic accurate suit. I thought that was fantastic.
Nope. See, let's talk about comic accurate suits. Comic accurate suits do not translate well to the big screen. Very, very rarely do they transfer well. You
Like in
need
this
to.
movie, they translated excellently.
I don't think so. For example, like if you take Captain America in the first Avenger film, I would say his suit in that one is fairly comic accurate. But it's probably, in my opinion, his worst suit because it's comic accurate. But every other suit he has is fantastic. They modernized it. They made him look, for example, in the first Avenger, he looks like a World War II soldier. The way it's set up with like the material used is fantastic. It looks like it could exist in the real world. Like it's very down to earth. And a lot of other movies do that. I think Batman's really good at doing that. Superman's new costume is really good. Like it has a function. It has a purpose for existing the way it does. The Flash's costume in Batman vs Superman, where it's like kind of like held together by like wire or whatever is holding it together. It had like a purpose and a function. Whereas Aquaman's suit, it doesn't have a purpose or a function. It just looks weird. They didn't explain cool. This is why his suit looks this way. Superman's suit looks that way as a symbol for hope. Like it was like like his family's house suit, which was great. This one, the tattoos I thought told the story. But you put the yellow and green suit on, that I feel like it didn't tell the story for me.
So what I'm discovering, Justin, is that this movie's kind of a Rorschach test because it's revealed what your preferences for comic book movies are.
Oh, certainly.
It's really that.
I respect that people like this movie.
That's the thing we need to.
That was a lie. I don't.
We need to bookmark that and save that for later, though, to really just kind of dig into what are the things that we really are drawn to, and what are the things that we're not. Which keeps going back to really kind of one of the purposes of the show, though, too, is like, can you still find things that are of merit or have meaning, even in a film that you don't overall enjoy?
Yeah, and we talked about this briefly, but the purpose of this podcast is not to be critical of films, which I think sometimes I take it in that direction, and I don't mean to, but I do like to make fun of movies, even though I love them. The purpose is to find deeper meaning. And I just don't think there was deeper meaning here. I don't feel like I don't say that to be like mean. I just don't think the filmmakers created it with deeper meaning in mind. Like there was not a moral or a theme.
Oh, okay.
That's what hurts me. It certainly has cool parts. Okay. Certainly has great little bits of acting. Certainly has great bits of cinematography. But overall, it's like, what are we doing here, boys? Like, pick a lane. Pick a lane.
So I'm gonna piggyback on what you said earlier about being critical. I think we could even dig in a little bit more and say we don't want to criticize, but we do want to be critical by looking at it with a critical eye. Is what I mean by that. So
can I
just be a jerk? Yeah,
I'm gonna do both for this movie.
So I'm gonna slide down to studying and design so that we don't go completely off the rails, because I do think there is. Speaking of intentionality, because I know it's kind of hard to see sometimes in a movie that you're just not invested in, which is fine, because I think that happens a lot for me too. Like I emotionally react to movies. Like I like this movie immediately or I don't. And generally it's like I'm just watching this, and as long as it ends well, I know I'm going to like this movie. If it doesn't, then I won't. This one I just bought in from minute one, was all over board. Sounds like you weren't, and that's totally fine. But one thing I thought was really cool is, as far as set decoration goes, in the house, I love the house. I love the lighthouse. It's very cozy. I'd like to take a nap on that couch. There is
that does seem
one shot where they zoom in on the snow globe, and it's sitting on a book. I don't know if you noticed this or not. It's the Dunwich Horror, which is an H.P. Lovecraft short story, which is about a half-human child, which Arthur is. And so little Easter eggs like that. And also this child ultimately has supernatural abilities and has a potential for evil, I thought was an interesting kind of where could this go question, but also like, hey, if you're paying attention, go dig deeper into this. And of course, as a ELA teacher, English language arts, I'm like, yeah, I'm going to dig into this and find out more about that.
Didn't pick up on that.
Okay.
Now that you mentioned that snow globe scene though, that was, I thought, kind of an interesting shot that they did as it zoomed in on the snow globe and then used the snow globe as like a stand-in for the passage of time as they fall in love. But then it just brings me back to the inconsistencies. Man, I'm just in a bad mood with this movie. Is they do that cool like little effect, but they don't ever do anything in that same vein. It's just like some intern had a really cool idea and they're like, yeah, let's throw that in, and then never did anything similar.
See, I think they did that multiple times. They do that with the flashback when he's standing on this is a little bit cinematography stuff, but he's standing on the cliff looking down with Mira, and they're about to jump down and to go get the sub or whatever. And then the camera pans around and it changes who's actually standing on the cliff, and it turns into a flashback where it's young Arthur and Volko. And they did that a couple of times where I thought it was an interesting visual way to do that. Did this with the story of the Trident and that origin as well, where it felt like the camera was constantly moving. And I know some people can look at that, well, it needs to sit still so I can pay attention to what's happening. Maybe it's a trick. Maybe it's a cheat, what have you. I liked it. I thought that was interesting.
No, you're right. They did do that again. Okay. I take back that criticism. You win. But while we're there talking about that shot where Volko is talking to young Aquaman, Aqua preteen.
Yes.
If you will. Okay. Willem Dafoe. Fantastic actor, right?
So good. Yep.
Wasted in this movie. Completely
Oh my
wasted.
God. So mean. No, he's so good.
Wasted.
Yes.
Fantastic actor. Not his fault. But
no, because he's great.
Aged. Okay. So Willem Dafoe. Let me start over. Great actor. Yeah. Obviously not like a conventionally attractive person. Like he's rough on the ice. Bless him. I love him. But like he's not the leading character in a lot of movies for a reason.
Yeah.
Digitally de-aged Willem Dafoe is the poster child for Uncanny Valley. Like
I didn't think it was that bad.
Weird. Oh my word!
I thought Tamora Morrison's was worse than his, and I was actually surprised Nicole Kidman had it because I thought hers looked pretty stinking good.
Yeah, I thought Nicole Kidman. They probably didn't have as much work to do with Nicole Kidman.
She's done enough of that on her own.
But Jango Fett, who I'm only going to refer to him as that. Jango Fett's was strange simply because he had hair. I'm like, this dude should not have hair. Like
that's true. Yeah. Maybe he didn't have to go that. Yeah, he's great.
He had a lot of CGI sunset lighting on his face throughout the film.
Beautiful.
I think about half of the CGI sunset scenes were with him, so that adds to the weirdness. But no joke, after watching the movie, I had a nightmare of Willem Dafoe de-aged. That guy is super creepy. Oh, I do not like that. Too smooth.
Hey, speaking of random stuff, did you see the Annabelle doll in the trash when they get Mirror Ship? It's sitting there when they pull away from it. It's kind of fun. That's a James Wan film.
I did not see that. No.
Yeah, it's fun to another Easter egg, and you maybe Easter egg and looking for meaning there. Maybe not quite the same thing.
Anyway, speaking of the ship, we're just gonna jump from tangent to tangent here, Craig.
Yeah, let's do it.
They're on the ship, right? They're on the boat. Aquaman is gravely injured. So she puts, kelp or whatever on him to heal him. Great.
Yeah.
He's healed.
It's magic.
But then they continue to be on the ship to travel. Why? Why stay on that ship? What? They're heading
to the place where they have to go and dive down.
They're Atlanteans. They can swim super fast. I understand being on the boat when you're wounded, but why are you still on there for a long time?
CGI is expensive, Justin.
It is expensive, which brings me to my next point. There are several scenes where they show that boat sailing on a CGI ocean, a CGI boat on a CGI ocean, and often with CGI sunset.
Why are you so prejudiced against CGI, Justin? That's what I don't get.
Because it's bad CGI, and these things exist in real life. They could have just put a real boat on real water and filmed it at sunset. Why?
Justin,
what?
Quick question though. Did you like She-Hulk?
I don't want to talk about it.
Okay, we're done with the CGI, just like that.
Oh man, the hypocrisy that just is exposed.
Because they had a stand-in woman that could have easily. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
I love Jason. Okay, I'm going to move down to characters. I love Jason Momoa in this. Yes, he's playing himself. That's what's part of the fun. Willem Dafoe, we mentioned him. Patrick Wilson, we talked about him. He's great in this. It's nice to see Dolph Lundgren. Anytime I see Dolph Lundgren, I'm just like, yeah, you go, dude. Keep being in movies. Because he's cool. He's a guy from my childhood. It's great.
What was he in your childhood?
He's Ivan Drago, Rocky IV.
Oh, see?
I must break you. Yeah.
Dang, I'm just like feeling so young. Here's the thing. Craig, I got so many every time you bring something up, I have something negative to say. The hair. That dude's hair. Like, he had pretty red facial hair, which looked pretty like normal and natural, and then he has like this fake head of hair, but his facial hair was the right color.
You can have multiple hair. Yeah.
Nobody has that color of hair. Same with Mara's hair. What is going on?
They're Atlanteans, dude.
No, it looks like somebody took a marker and just kind of went to town on her hair.
I think it's perfect.
It's so bad.
It's so great.
Bad. No.
Yahya Abdul-Mateen II as David Kane is great in this. I think he's menacing. I think he's fantastic.
I did like him. I thought he did.
He's good.
I thought he did a good job.
It's great to. We mentioned Nicole Kidman. I think she's pretty solid in this. Randall Park is not in this a lot, but I love Randall Park. He just makes everything a little bit better. He plays Stephen Shin in this. And
I
believe he's in the next
Jim.
one.
Jim from The Office.
Yeah. Good of you not to notice.
Good. Good for you.
Dude, John Rhys Davies. Look, here, you have John Rhys Davies as the voice of the Brine King. And again, that lends to the final battle being very Lord of the Rings. And then Jaimin Hansu is King Ruku of the Fishermen. And he's always great, even if he's barely in this movie. But the best voice actor in this entire thing, or the most interesting, fantastic one, is that Julie Andrews plays the Karathan. Mary Poppins herself.
Oh.
I'm not the first one to say it, but I'll be the most recent to say it. Is that it's amazing that Mary Poppins Returns came out the same time that this movie came out, and she chose to be in this movie instead of that one.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow. No, that's great. I did not.
Yeah,
Julie Andrews.
It's pretty great. It lends some. It's interesting with her voice being that timbre, but lends lots of gravitas.
I feel like I need to go watch that scene again.
It's a great
scene.
All
the people you could have gotten for that. Well, that's an interesting one.
It's a way to go, but I think it worked.
Yeah.
So I think this fits Hero's journey pretty well. He's a reluctant hero. I think there's a transformation. I mentioned it before with the apotheosis going into the cave and accepting his destiny and coming out. And I'm fully on board with that. I know you think that scene's cheesy, but
it is. But no, it fully fits with Hero's journey. A lot of that aspect of it, and it's like it's an old trope, so I'm not criticizing for that. It was. I went into this knowing that the hero's journey was very similar to like The Lion King, which seems like a weird comparison, and I kept trying to draw parallels between the two movies. And there's not as many as I wanted, which I was really disappointed by.
That would be an interesting paper, actually, to write on. Yeah.
No, I tried it. It's not. There's like nothing else there. I spent a long time trying to draw parallels.
Uncle, brother, there's some things.
Yeah. Really just like hesitant king, hero's journey stuff. That's about it.
Yeah, it's Hamlet, right?
Yeah.
It all goes back to Shakespeare.
Craig, I feel really defeated after your She-Hulk comment. I just feel like I can't criticize this movie anymore.
No, you can criticize it. Just
no,
the CGI thing.
Because I did like She-Hulk, and I know basically no one CGI. Did.
And it probably production cost was more than this movie.
Yeah, yep.
So world building. I mentioned before that one of the things I liked about this movie is that it's basically a standalone. There is a mention of Steppenwolf, and so it's a sequel to Justice League. What I also appreciate very much is that both James Wan, the director, and Jason Momoa have come out and said this movie is a sequel to Zack Snyder's Justice League, not the atrocity that was released in theaters in 2017. But
Zack
what's funny thing
Snyder's
about
Justice League, which is not considered canon.
Oh, but it is to this.
And the DCEU is a mess.
No, see, but it's also that. Yeah, see, I don't know if we talked about this off mic or not, but the Flash actually references things from the Flash movie, references things from Zack Snyder's Justice League as well. So
yeah.
Regardless of what the head honchos at Warner Brothers have said, the filmmakers who made films after that incorporated elements from it that were not in the other movies, so they by themselves made it canon. Whatever, it's coming to an end. We know that.
I love
it is
the
what
DCEU.
It is.
I'm rooting for it, but it is a mess, and I hope they can fix it.
Well, as we said, the second movie, Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, is coming out. It's Friday, and I'm excited for it because I'm pretty sure it's going to be a lot like this one. I've enjoyed the trailers. I'm pretty sure it's going to be very much like what this one. Most of the people are back from the first movie. Will feel hopefully like a natural sequel to this. That probably makes you less excited for it, which is fine. But I'm excited for it because I know it's not going to build toward anything else, but I don't care because this one didn't really build toward anything else either, other than the second Aquaman movie.
Yeah, we can enjoy standalone movies. That's fine. That's a fine thing to do.
Small, little tangent there, but I mean that seems to be one of the biggest criticisms I've heard from a lot of movies recently. It's like, well, it's not setting anything up, or it's going into a dead end. It's like that didn't used to be a thing we cared about.
Yeah, I think we've just come to expect that with comic book movies, but DC is doing a really good job of you shouldn't always expect that. Like the Joker, we don't if that even fits anywhere at all, or the Batman with the vampire Twilight fellow.
Pattinson,
yeah. We don't even know if that connects to anything. Probably doesn't. That's totally fine. Standalone movie. Great.
Yeah. Or like you mentioned, the Nolan movies, like those had a beginning, middle, and end. And that's it. Mm-hmm. And it's not like, well, it should have continued with Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character. It didn't need to. Like that story is over, and those movies can just exist on their own as just fantastic movies.
Yep. I would have liked more though, but I'm happy with where it's at.
Yeah. So, final thoughts on Aquaman, Justin.
Oh.
Don't say CGI. Don't say CGI. Don't say CGI.
I can't anymore. You took away my CGI with the She-Hulk comment. I'm done. I've lost all credibility. No, I don't. No, She-Hulk is a TV show. That's different budgets, different.
No, it's not a different budget though. That's
different
the thing.
Expectations.
Different
expectations. Listen. I tried. I really tried. By my third watch, I liked it so much more. It has redeemable qualities, and I understand why some people like it. But the inconsistencies, like I can't get on board. And like I said, I think twice now, if we're searching for deeper meaning through intentional actions done by the filmmakers, I don't feel like this movie had a lot of that, and I just can't. I can't do it.
Okay, it's fine.
I'm sorry. I like.
You're still my friend, Justin. I forgive you.
All right, thank you.
I love this movie. It's completely rewatchable for me. I will continue to enjoy it even after the DCU comes to a close and bring on the sequel. I'm ready. Let's do it.
I'll watch the sequel. Not with you though. I'll watch an angry old man in my basement by myself. Or I can yell at the TV in silence or in solitude.
So as we close, we just want to say thank you so much for listening. If you'd like to connect with us, you can find us on X and Facebook. Email us at readingbetweenreels@gmail.com. Use the SpeakPipe app on our website. If you enjoyed the show, please tell a friend. Support us by writing a review on your favorite podcast catcher. And one last thing, our next episode will be a discussion of our top 5 favorite movies. Only ones we like are we going to be talking about.
In which there'll be no discussion of Aquaman because it's not top 5 for anybody. Sorry, I'm done. That was the end.
That's fine. So send us an email or voicemail with your top 5 favorite movies, and we'll share it on the next episode.